Kiss news, it was 50 years ago today that the magic of Kiss began when Paul Ace Frehley auditioned to play guitar for Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, and Peter Criss after seeing an ad in the Village Voice looking for a lead guitarist with flash and ability. The story goes, Ace showed up wearing different colored sneakers, and while they were unimpressed by his visual appearance, as soon as he plugged in, he proved that he was the right guitarist for the job. In other Kiss news, Peter Criss shared a video of himself singing his song Dirty Living from Kiss's Dynasty album, which was released in 1979, and he sounded pretty good.
People all around me, letting me bleed, waiting for the darkness to blind the heat. I make my living out on the street, dirty living, dirty living. I can't wait any longer to set myself free.
Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin recalled the moment when John Bonham lost his hat in the toilet of Led Zeppelin's private plane. So Led Zeppelin had a Boeing 720 private airplane that they named the Starship. Plant recalled that one time when John Bonham was on the plane, he used to wear this fedora hat. When he went to the bathroom, he opened up the door and the hat was immediately sucked down the toilet. What happened is that the maintenance crew forgot to re-screw the chute where the toilets were emptied, so this caused the cabin to be unpressurized. Plant said because of this, the airplane couldn't go over 8,000 feet because it began hurting their ears. As to the whereabouts of the hat, I'm assuming it's somewhere over Texas or Louisiana. Neil Schon says fans will see Journey co-founder Greg Raleigh on the band's 50th anniversary tour, which starts this year. This is pretty good news coming out of Journey camp, seeing that the news comes after weeks of public bickering between Schon and Raleigh's replacement, Jonathan Cain, which have both accused each other of damaging the Journey brand. To bring you quickly up to speed on recent events, let's take a look at it. In December, Schon filed a cease and desist order against Jonathan Cain after the keyboardist performed Don't Stop Believin' at a political event. Schon claims that Cain is damaging the Journey brand and polarizing the fan base. He stated, Mr. Cain has no right to use Journey for politics. His politics should be his own business. But that's not the only legal battle going on here either. Schon sued Cain over access to the band credit card. The lawsuit claimed that the keyboardist had set up a secret American Express account which gave him access to millions of dollars from the Journey bank account. In a statement, Cain responded that Schon's lawsuit was filled with malicious lies and personal attacks, and he claims that he was forced to take control of the situation because of Schon's reckless spending. So despite all the legal battles, Schon says the lawsuits will not break up the band, and Journey is set to kick off their Freedom Tour 2023 with Toto, that's going to be awesome, on February 4th in Pennsylvania. Billy Idol was awarded a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame on January 6th. The star is the 2,743rd star to be awarded. It's located at 6201 Hollywood Boulevard in front of the Amoeba Music Shop. Idol actually began his career as a guitarist for the band Chelsea in 1976. He quickly went on to form Generation X with Chelsea bassist Tony James, and they released 3 albums between 1978 and 1981. He then pursued a solo career and became a fixture on MTV with his singles White Wedding and Dancing With Myself in 1982. The following year, he released the Rebel Yell album along with the hits Rebel Yell, Eyes Without a Face, and Flesh for Fantasy. Mr. Big frontman Eric Martin confirmed that the group will reunite for a tour in the summer of 2023. The lineup will include Paul Gilbert and Billy Sheehan. Pat Torpey, the band's drummer, passed away from complications from Parkinson's disease in 2018. Martin did say that they did have a replacement drummer for the tour, but they're waiting to announce it until a formal press release comes out. He said the drummer was a huge fan of Pat, and he believes Pat would approve. This week, Dee Snider made some comments that there's a difference between singers and frontmen, and believes Robert Plant and Ronnie James Dio lack stage presence, unlike real performers such as Freddie Mercury and Mick Jagger. So Dee Snider had this conversation of what he thinks makes a great frontman while in conversation with his own fans on Twitter. While the Twisted Sister frontman hails the two musicians as hugely talented vocalists and says that Dio is one of the greatest singers of all time, but he pretty much just stood on stage and sang. When another fan proposed Robert Plant as being the quintessential frontman, Dee Snider replied by saying, I'm a huge Plant fan vocally, but he showed me nothing as a performer. He looked amazing, great hair, stood on stage with one hand raised and sang his ass off. Not a frontman in my opinion. And FYI, many great frontmen are not great singers. In a later post he adds, my frontmen are all over the stage and interact with the crowd. Showmen. Think of David Lee Roth, Paul Stanley, Mick Jagger, Axl Rose, you said the list goes on and on. So understandably, Snider's comments left more than a few of his followers feeling disgruntled, leading him to clarify his argument a little bit further. Snider said, "I knew this would upset people. I am not saying that Dio, Plant, etc. do not have stage presence. I'm just saying they're not performers." Snider said that he learned the importance of performing over vocals in the 70s with the band Twisted Sister. He's like, "We did our opening song and my voice was completely gone. So I started going crazy on stage. It was the best reaction that the band has gotten to date. It changed my entire game." All of Fleetwood Mac's pop masterpieces of dysfunctional relationships can be actually tracked back to one single Fleetwood Mac song, Over My Head. Over My Head was released in September of 1975. Christine McVie wrote this song, and people believe it's the blueprint for everything that would follow with the band. This was the band's first top 40 hit in America. McVie had confirmed that she wrote the song about Lindsey Buckingham. The lyrics, "You can take me to paradise, then again you could be as cold as ice, I'm over my head, but it sure feels nice," was referring to Lindsey. Over My Head wasn't recognized as a hit song at first. McVie had said, "It was the last track that we recorded and we really didn't know what we were going to do with it." The song reached number 20 on the US charts and led the way for a rich slate of singles from the same record, including Rihanna and Landslide. The ever-modest McVie later said, "Over My Head was the last track that we ever thought would be a single." McVie recently passed away on November 30th of 2022. Going back and listening to the song, this is one of those songs that quietly ingrained into the soundtrack of my life. Fleetwood Mac is not one of those bands that I would consider myself a huge fan of, and then I go back and I look at the impact that many of their songs had in my life, and I guess I kind of am a big fan. I would encourage you to go give this song another listen, especially if you haven't listened to it in a long time. It really is a great song. The Foo Fighters confirmed that the band is going to continue on without Taylor Hawkins. The group wrote in a statement, "Without Taylor, we would have never become the band that we were, and without Taylor, we know we're going to be a different band moving forward. We also know that you, the fans, meant as much to Taylor as he meant to you, and we know that when we see you again, he will be there in spirit with us every night." Hawkins passed away unexpectedly on March 25th of 2022 at the age of 50. This has to be one of the hardest decisions a band has to make, but honestly, the best thing to do is to move forward and continue and honor that person. In guitar news, the debate over guitar tone has always divided guitar players. There are really strong arguments from tone wood to pickups, fretboard materials, pedals, speakers, and even down to guitar cables. Guitarist Jared James Nichols argues that tone comes from your fingers and recalled one time he played through Eddie Van Halen's own amp as evidence. Jared said it comes down to your hands, the way you hold the guitar, the way you strike the strings. Your touch is everything. He played through Eddie's personal modded Marshall from 1984. He said, "I plugged it in, it was incredible, but it sounded like me, not Eddie." This is not the first time an A-list guitar hero has helped support the tone is in the fingers debate. In August of 2021, John Mayer swapped out his PRS Silver Sky and Dumble for an Epiphone Les Paul and a Roland combo rig, and it sounded like himself. Likewise, Joe Satriani performed Surfing with the Alien using a Stratocaster copy and still delivered that classic Strat sound despite the absence of his signature Ibanez guitar. This week, the first image of the new Epiphone Adam Jones Berserker Variation Silverburst Les Paul Custom has surfaced online. It's the latest release and follows the 2022's Veil of Bees artwork from its first run. There will be 5 more releases with artwork, and the final release will be a plain back with no artwork. Also new this week, Ibanez has released their 2023 lineup, which includes 6, 7, 8, and 9 string guitars.